Identify morphology of flowering plants. The wide range in a structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us. Even though the angiosperms show such a large diversity in external structure or morphology, they are all characterized by the presence of roots, stem, leaves, flowers and fruits. In chapter 2 and 3, we talked about the classification of plants based on a morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at a classification and at understanding at higher plants, or for that matter any living organisms, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variations in different parts found as adaptations for plants to their environment, example adaptations to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have a root, stem and leaves. They may be bearing flowers and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is a root system, while the portion above the ground forms a shoot system, figure 5.1. 5.1, the root. The majority of the dicotyledonous plants, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of primary root, which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral of a several orders that are referred to as a secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system as seen in the mustard plant, figure 5.2a. In monocotyledonous plants, the primary root is short-lived and replaced by a large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system as seen in the wheat plant, figure 5.2b. In some plants like grass, monstera and banyan tree, the roots arise from the parts of the plant other than the radicle and are called adventitious roots, figure 5.2c. The main functions of the root system are absorption of water and minerals from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing the reserved food material and synthesis of plant growth regulators. 5.1.1 Regions of the root. The root is covered at the apex by the thimble-like structure called a root cap, figure 5.3. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is a region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin-walled and with the dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cell proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for a growth of a root in length. This region is called the region of elongation. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, this zone proximal to the region elongation is called the region of maturation. From this region, some of the epidermal cells form a very fine and delicate thread-like structures called root hairs. These root hairs absorb the water and minerals from the soil. 5.2 The stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is an ascending part of the axis bearing branches, leaves, flowers and fruits. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of the germinating seed. The stem bears nodes and internodes. The region of the stem where areas leaves are born are called the nodes, while the internodes are the portions between two nodes. The stem bears buds which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later often becomes woody and dark brown. The main function of a stem is spreading out the branches bearing leaves, flowers, fruits. It conducts water, minerals and photosynthesis. Some stems perform the function of storage of food, support protection and vegetative propagation. Some stems perform 5.3 The leaf. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure borne on a stem. It develops at a node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from the shoot apical meristem and arranged in a acropetal order. They are most important vegetative organs of photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf, base, petiole and lamina. Figure 5.4a. A leaf attached to a stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral small leaf-like structures called stipules. In monocotyledons, the leaf base expand into the sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plants, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called pulvinous. The petiole help hold blade to light. Long, thin, flexible, cooling petioles Long, thin, flexible petioles allow the leaf blades to flutter in a wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to the leaf surface. The lamina or the leaf blade is a green, expanded, usually a middle prominent vein which is known as a midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as a channels for a transport of water, minerals and food materials. The shape, margin, apex, surface and extent of incision of a lamina varies in a different leaves. 5.3.1 Venation. The arrangement of veins and the ventlets in the lamina of the leaf is termed as a venation. When the ventlets form a network, the venation is termed as a reticulate. Figure 5.4b. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as a parallel. Figure 5.4c. Leaves of a dicotyledonous plants generally possesses a reticulate venation, while parallel venation is characteristic of most of monocotyledons. 5.3.2 Types of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised, the incision do not touch the midrib. When incision of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking it into the number of leaflets, the leaf is called the compound. A bud is present in axil of petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of leaflet of a compound leaf. The compound leaves may be of two types. Figure 5.5. In a pinnately compound leaf, a number of leaflets are present on a common axis, the rachis, which represents the midrib of the leaf as in neem. In palmately compound leaves, the leaflets are attached to a common point, that is at the tip of the petiole, as in silk cotton. 5.3.3 Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is a pattern of arrangement of a leaves on a stem or a branch. This is usually three types: alternate, opposite and whorled. Figure 5.6. In an alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in an alternate manner, as in a China rose, mustard and a sunflower plants. In opposite type, a pair of leaves arise at the each node and lie opposite to each other, as in a calotropis and guava plants. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whorl, it is called a whorled, as in Alstonia. 5.4 The inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produces the different kinds of floral appendages laterally at the successive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence, depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow. Two major types of inflorescence are defined: racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in the acropetal succession. Figure 5.7. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in the flower, hence it is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in a basipetal order. Figure 5.7. 5.5 The flower. The flower is a reproductive unit in the angiosperms. It is meant for a sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kinds of whorls arranged successively on a swollen end of the stalk or a pedicle, called thalamus or receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organs, while the androecium and gynoecium are the reproductive organs. In some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as a perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is a unisexual. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic, means radial symmetry, or zygomorphic, means bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radical plane passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Example: mustard, datura, chili. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is zygomorphic. Example: pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia. A flower is asymmetric, means irregular, if it is cannot be divided into two similar halves by vertical plane passing through the center, as in canna. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous when the floral appendages are in a multiple of 3, 4 or 5 respectively. Flowers with a bracts. Reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicle are called bracteate, and those without bracts are called ebracteate. Based on a position of calyx, corolla and androecium in respect of the ovary on a thalamus, the flowers are described as a hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. Figure 5.9. In hypogynous, flower gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flowers is said to be superior. Example, mustard, china rose and brinjal. In gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level. It is called perigynous. The ovary here is said to be half inferior. Example, plum, rose, peach. In epigynous flowers, the margin of a thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of the flower arise above the ovary, hence ovary is said to be inferior, as in the flower of guava and cucumber and the ray florets of sunflower. 5.5.1 Parts of a flower. Each flower normally has a 4 floral whorls, which is calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Figure 5.10. 5.5.1.1 Calyx. The calyx is the outermost whorl of a flower and members are called the sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, means sepals united, or polysepalous, means sepals free. 5.5.1.2 Corolla. Corolla is a composed of petals. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract the insect for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be gamopetalous, means petals united, or polypetalous, petals free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped or wheel-shaped. Estivation. The mode of arrangement of a sepals or petals in a floral bud with the aspect to the other members of the same whorl is known as estivation. The main types of estivation are velvet, twisted, imbricate and vexillary. Figure 5.11. When sepals or petals in a whorl just touch one another at the margin without overlapping, as in the calotropis, it is said to be velvet. If one margin of an appendage overlaps that of a next one and so on in a china rose, lady's finger and cotton, it is called twisted. If the margins of a sepals or petals overlap one another but not in a particular direction, as in a cassia and gulmohar, the estivation is imbricate. In a pea and bean flowers, there are 5 petals. The largest standard overlaps to the two lateral petals, that is wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals, keel. This type of estivation is known as vexillary or papilionaceous. 5.5.1.3 Androecium. Androecium is composed of stamens. Each stamen, which represent the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has 2 chambers. The pollen sacs. The pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. Stamens of a flower may be united with members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are attached to the petals, they are epipetalous, as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when they are attached to perianth, as in the flower of lily. The stamens in a flower may either remain free, means polyandrous, or may be united in varying degrees. The stamens may be united into a bunch or one bundle, monodelphous, as in china rose, or 2 bundles, diadelphous, as in pea, or into the more than 2 bundles, polydelphous, as in citrus. There may be variation in a length of filaments within a flower, as in the salvia and mustard. 5.5.1.4 Gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower and is made up of the one or more carpels. The carpel consists of 3 parts, namely stigma, style and ovary. Ovary is the enlarged basal parts on which lies the elongated tube, the style. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface of a pollen grains. Each ovary bears 1 or more ovules attached to a flat and cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called apocarpus. They are termed as a syncarpus when carpels are fused as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into fruit. Placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as a placentation. The placentation are different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central and free central. Figure 5.12. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary and ovules are born on this ridge forming two rows as in P. When the placenta axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, the placentation is said to be axial as in China rose, tomato and lemon. In parietal placentation, the ovules developed on an inner wall of the ovary or the peripheral part. Ovary is one chambered but the becomes two chambered due to the formation of false septum. Example mustard and argemone. When the ovules are born on a central axis and septa are absent, as in the dianthus and primrose, the placentation is called free central. In a basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of an ovary and single ovule is attached to it as in the sunflower and marigold. 5.6. The fruit. The fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plants. It is a mature or a ripened ovary developed after the fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called a parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or a pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp, the middle mesocarp and the inner endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as a drupe. Figure 5.13, they develop from a monocarpellary superior ovaries and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is a fibrous. 5.7. The seed. The ovules after fertilization develop into seeds. The seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of radicle, an embryonal axis, and one as in wheat and maize, or two cotyledonous as in gram and pea. 5.7.1. Structure of dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of the seed is the seed coat. Seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and the inner tegmen. The hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called micropyle, within the seed coat is the embryo consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserve of food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and plumule. Figure 5.14. In some seeds such as castor, the endosperm formed as a result of a double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called the endospermic seeds. In a plant such as bean, gram and pea, the endosperm is not present in a mature seeds and such seeds are called non-endospermous. 5.7.2. Structure of monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some as in the orchids are not endospermic. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of an endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called aileron layer. The embryo is small and situated in a groove at the end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scutellum and the short axis with the plumule and a radicle. The plumule and radicle are enclosed in a sheaths which are called coleoptile and coleorhiza respectively. Figure 5.15. 5.8. Semi-technical description of the typical flowering plant. Various morphological features are used to describe a flowering plant. The description has to be brief, in a simple and scientific language, and represented in a proper sequence. The plant is described beginning with its habit, vegetative characters such as root, stem and leaves, and other floral characters, inflorescence and floral parts. After describing various parts of a plant, the floral diagram and a floral formula are presented. The formula is represented by some symbols. In a floral formula, BR stands for a bracteate, K stands for calyx, C for corolla, P for perianth, A for androecium, and G for gynoecium. Underline under G for the superior ovary and the overline of G for the inferior ovary. This symbol is for male, this for female, this for bisexual plant, and circle plus under the in circle for actinomorphic. The percent symbol for zygomorphic nature of flower. Fusion in is indicated by the enclosing the figure within a bracket and adhesion by a line draw above the symbols of a floral parts. The floral diagram provides information about the number of parts of the flower, their arrangement and the relation they have with the one another. Figure 5.16. The position of the mother axis with respect to flower is represented by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. Calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium are drawn in a successive whorls. Calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium being the in the center. Floral formula also shows cohesion and adhesion within the parts of a whorls and between the whorls. The floral diagram and floral formula in figure 5.16 represent the mustard plant family Brassicaceae. 5.9 Solanaceae. It is a large family commonly called as a potato family. It is widely distributed in tropics, subtropics and even temperate zones. Figure 5.17. Vegetative characters. Plants mostly herbs, shrubs and rarely small trees. Stems herbaceous, rarely woody, aerial, erect, cylindrical, branched, solid or hollow, hairy or glabrous. Underground stem in potato means Solanum tuberosum. Leaves alternate, simple, rarely pinnately compound, exstipulate, venation reticulate. Floral characters: inflorescence solitary, axillary or cymose as in Solanum. Flower bisexual, actinomorphic. Calyx sepals 5 united, persistent, velvet aestivation. Corolla petals 5 united, velvet aestivation. Androecium stamens 5, epipetalous. Gynoecium bicarpillary obligated placed, syncarpous, ovary superior, bilocular, placenta swollen with many ovules, axile. Fruits berry or capsule. Seeds many, endospermous. Floral formula is this. Economic importance: many plants belonging to this family are a source of food, means tomato, brinjal, potato, spice, chili, medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha, fumigatory, tobacco, ornamental, petunia. Summary: flowering plants exhibit the enormous variation in shape, size, structure, mode of nutrition, lifespan, habit and habitat. They have well-developed root shoot systems. Root system is either taproot or fibrous. Generally, dicotyledonous plants have a taproot while the monocotyledonous plants have fibrous roots. The roots in some plants get modified for a storage of food, the mechanical support and respiration. The shoot system is differentiated into stem, leaves, flowers and fruits. The morphological features of a stem like presence of nodes and internodes, multicellular hair and positively phototropic nature helps to differentiate the stems from roots. Leaf is a lateral outgrowth of the stem developed exogenously at the node. These are green in color to perform the function of photosynthesis. Leaves exhibit the marked variations in their shape, size, margin, apex and the extent of incision of the leaf blade, means lamina. The flower is modified shoot meant for a sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescences. They exhibit enormous variation in structure, symmetry, position of ovary in a relation to the other parts, the arrangement of sepals, petals, ovules, etc. After fertilization, the ovary is modified into fruits and ovules into seeds. The seeds either may be monocotyledonous or dicotyledonous. They vary in shape, size and period of viability. The floral characteristics form the basis of classification and the indication of a flowering plants. This can be illustrated through the semi-technical description of families. Hence, a flowering plant is described in a definite sequence by using the scientific terms. The floral features are represented in a summarized form as the floral diagrams and floral formula. Thank you.